Okay, sound check, 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 check. What's going on, you guys? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? This has just been a shit show. Okay, so I'm going to put my leg up because I still have a leg up. I'm going to do a yoga move because I owied my toe and I still got to take care of it. I've got a procedure scheduled later today. It's crazy. It got infected, despite the fact that I did everything right. So there's no winning for losing. Can you hear me now? Annie, you are amazing. You've been here all the time. And now it fades away. So what happens if I live chat? Okay, I think that we'll keep it up a little bit longer. Sandra, you can hear me. Sorry about your toe. Okay, well, I'm sorry about all the freaking technical difficulties. I really would think that it was just me and my technological challenges, but like I've told you guys, I have an expert IT crew in-house, my kids and my hubby. And so it didn't seem like the audio was fixed on the laptop. I'm on the cell phone right now. But then I did a sound check this morning thinking it definitely wasn't fixed because we tried everything and it wasn't fixed. But then the sound check, it worked. And then I finally got it together to do my live a few minutes ago and it didn't work. So I'm going to have a lot of trouble reading the chat. I can try these other glasses because they're probably cleaner. And I don't have my stuff for cleaning them handy, I don't think, and I just want to get on with the show. Oh, I actually do. I've got the spray stuff, but where's one of those cloths? If I can find a cloth. Here, while I'm looking, I'll just show you this. Look, a cloth right behind my love will save the day. How cosmic is that? Okay, so love will save the day. That's the moral of the story, and you guys are the bomb. I have missed you so much, I can't even tell you. What's today? Tuesday? It seems like it's been 1,000 years. I want to say Friday, Thursday was probably my last live. I'd have to check. Oh, what happened? Friday, I did my yoga thing, right? That was funny. I took the one down that didn't have any sound and then left the other one up. But if you saw the yoga video, and I would recommend it if you are the least bit interested, because I think it's fascinating. Because you can really see me in process of trying to transform my brain into something new, which is challenging, an old dog learning new tricks. And when you take a yoga class, you think the teachers always make the teaching look so easy. You think your job is hard as the yoga student, but I'm telling you, it's the other way around. Your job as the yoga student is easy. Just go with your own flow. Don't do anything that's not comfortable. Do it your way or the highway. And yeah, you don't have to worry about anything when you're the student as long as you're taking care of yourself. But when you're the teacher, you got to think about a lot of different things. And for me, the most challenging part is the transitions. So, all right, I'm here. You're here. Thanks, you guys, so much for being here. Please hit your creepy like button if you feel like it. I really have been dying to talk with you guys about some of these cases, updating with Kiely Rodney, updating with the Watts case, Maui, Idaho 4, and another one. I spoke about it in the video where I didn't have any sound, the one that I took down, the yoga one, the Uvalde. So the day that I did that yoga video with no sound was the day that the Uvalde, Texas school shooting report came out. And that was just freaking heartbreaking. Absolutely gut-wrenching. There was so much that I didn't know, and I've got my pod. I was looking for my other thing. So much that I didn't know about that, and I don't want to get into it too deep because it's just it's too sad. I didn't realize like the ratio of the number of people that were in those classrooms with the shooter and the percentage that survived versus the percentage that didn't. So it's my understanding, and I have it all in my notes, but I'll just go off the top of my head and ballpark it, that it was about 33 students or 33 people that were trapped in those two rooms, 11-11 and 11-12. And it was well over an hour and 15 minutes that they were trapped in there with the freaking, while there were, what, dozens or hundreds of law enforcement there, not going in. And you guys know my husband is law enforcement. He was so disgusted. All law enforcement were so disgusted. We spoke about it. He was like, of course I would have run in there. And I was like, really? You know that you can die too, but you can just do that. And he said, yeah, you're trained for it. You're trained for it. I'm going to start crying. Nobody in there's trained for it. The kids certainly aren't trained for it. The teachers aren't trained for it. Law enforcement's trained for it. So law enforcement nationwide has been using the Uvalde epic failure as a training ground ever since. So that's one good thing. Okay, so there were, I think, about 19 students and 2 teachers that lost their lives. So that's about 21. So that leaves somewhere in the range of 12 people. But I think it was about 13 or so, my numbers are fuzzy, 13 students that survived and 1 teacher that survived, something like that. So anyway, I know there was 1 male teacher that survived it. I know that there was roughly 10, maybe 11 kids that survived it, but there were the 19 kids that were unalived and the 2 teachers that were unalived, and a lot of stuff that I didn't know. And like I said, I'm going to just summarize and move on because it's just too raw. Being the mother of 4, but even if you didn't have kids, I mean, this is just completely horrific. That, of course, it was the Border Patrol that finally moved in and saved the day. Thank goodness for them. How hideous for the law enforcement that were either not properly trained or just ill-equipped. There was no communication. We all know about all this. But this was the worst part for me. Really, my takeaway from the whole report was that when they put the students that were alive, that were injured and, covered in the red stuff, they put them on a bus to get them to a safe place, right? And the parents got to them. And so the parents that didn't have a kid on the bus were freaking out, trying to figure out where their kid was. And they were told, don't worry, there's a second bus. You guys, did you know this? The parents that couldn't find a kid of theirs on the bus, of what, only like 12, roughly 12 people on that bus, were told there's a second bus. So they're thinking another 19 students could be arriving. So there's all those families looking for those 19 students, looking for that second bus that was non-existent. It was like a fantasy bus. I mean, I was so blown away on that day. I was just like, I can't even talk about any other case. Like, wow, wow. And then with the problem with the sound, I was just like, you know what? It's very apropos. I'm speechless. There's no words. There's no words. The parents that were gaslit, that were told there's a second bus, you have nothing to worry about. The kids are safe. There's a second bus. I just can't imagine, as the moments are passing and these parents are coming to realize that there's no second bus. Hey, man, it's like all Annie Ruler. It's weird. It's like, I don't know if it's just like one epic failure after another with my my setup here, or if I'm being hacked. I mean, I started to say it, like, I do think that I'm being hacked. And I don't like to think that, but yeah, it's all weird. Like the sentences are over each other. Let me see if I can switch that up. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna have to maybe just hide all the chat messages because show chat. I want to see the chat, but it's like typed over each other, like WTF. It's never done that to me. So I'm really thinking that it is, I'll leave it on so that I can see that there's people there trying to communicate with me, but let me just get on with this. Everything I say is simply my opinion, simply for the sake of starting a conversation, hoping to learn something, hoping to be educational, and I'm so appreciative of having this platform. I'm so appreciative of learning how to use it, learning how to interact with you guys, with members, and I am just kind of stymied with all of the technological difficulties that I've been having. And I don't like to think that it's because I'm being hacked, because it's not so much like the paranoia of like, oh, I'm being hacked, but I think it's the self-importance of, oh, well, people are coming after me because they want to silence me, because they don't want people to hear what I have to say, because they can't handle the truth being out, right? I mean, that's ridiculous. Um, there is a lot of that on YouTube, the whole thing with the shadow banning. But I'm just a tiny channel. It's hard to imagine that that would be the case for me ever since I started. But it seems like it might be. So let's just, I'm not trying to be full of myself. I'm just trying to say, like, I call it like I see it. I'm not trained in acting. I'm not trained in technology. I'm not trained in any of this YouTube stuff. I'm trained as a mental health professional. I'm trained as a human. And, I started my channel because I felt like I had something to say specifically about the Kiely Rodney case. A lot of information that I felt like was not being talked about on YouTube. So I thought, well, I need to get on there and kick some butt and say some things that need to be said. And I wasn't even sure if I was right. I just felt it, right? I felt like I needed to express my opinion and put it out there to see if other people responded to it. And you guys responded to it. I started from zero on, I want to say September 2nd was my second video, the day after Kiely's birthday, because I built my channel the 28th of August, and then I did a video a couple of days later. I think I didn't do a video on her birthday, and I think it might have been on purpose. I honestly don't remember. It very well could have been, but I'm not sure. I do know that I did a video then on September 2nd, because I go back and I look at my history, and I look at the analytics and all that. And what's blown my mind in doing that is realizing that I think I got to 1,000 subs within the first 3 weeks, you guys. Like, that's really quick. A lot of channels grow at different rates, and it's hard to say what makes one channel grow and what makes another channel not grow. But some of that, I think, is how good your content is and how much people are interested in seeing you and sharing your video with other people. Other content creators may be talking about you. So I was 5 weeks in when a content creator over across the pond decided to rip me a new one and criticize me from the ground up and act like I was some kind of lunatic that didn't have any idea what I was talking about. Whereas a year later, I came to realize that that content creator was accusing me of exactly what they are, because that's what gaslighters do. That's what they do. They make crazy accusations, but what they end up doing is what every perp does, is they turn the table and they accuse you of doing what they're doing. So, we've seen that with some of these content creators that have attacked other content creators. We've seen it lately. It's very unpleasant. And I do think that there's some value in discussing it on our channels and laughing about it on our channels And at the same time, it's just another effing distraction. We are here to get to the truth. Primarily, I came here on YouTube to get to the truth with Kiely Rodney because I saw some wild ass crap going down that looked to me like a cover up. So let me give a huge shout out to Ninja Chihuahua again. That channel is amazing. And their most recent video, I think it's the most recent one. I'll put a link in the description. It's about 22 minutes long, and it's specifically MCs are like YouTube Street's introduction to MC, right? So I think it's pretty much all interviews on the channel that is like Licked Me, but with a letter rearranged. And it's very suspicious. The whole thing is. I mean, she's very suspicious. The interviews are very suspicious. The questions, the line of questioning, the things she says, the points where her technology is not working, like you think she's maybe being told to shut it down because she's like saying something that she shouldn't say. Anyway, yeah, it's a nightmare. I wrote down some notes about it I want to look at. Because, yeah, and of course I have 3 notebooks, and it's not in any of the 3. Cat is so Ninja, Megan, Kiely. Man, the things Megan said, like talking about the car, there was a lot in this Ninja Chihuahua video that I hadn't caught before. I really hadn't caught ever, I don't think, the whole case. Like, Megan saying how those kids just they remembered yesterday about the sticker on her car. And she says this, you guys, I can't tell you what the sticker is. Like, what? But there's a sticker above or below her Honda insignia. And then she talks about like maybe the bumper being ripped off, the license plate being ripped off. It's the most bizarre thing. I'll put a timestamp in the description about where that is. And then she talks about that everybody should check their garages. So she's really focused on the car. And it's like she's been fed this information from people on the inside, information about the car. And it is just crazy. It is just batshit crazy. That woman is such a hot mess. And honestly, to me, she sounds intoxicated in those interviews. And my impression, my opinion, is that she came out on the streets of YouTube thinking that she could control the narrative, thinking like, oh, I got this. I'm on it. And she couldn't even tell her story straight because she was lying. And when you're lying, it doesn't come out right. When you're telling the truth, it comes out right. Even if it doesn't come out right, you can go back and fix it. You can make corrections because you're telling the truth. But when you're lying, things just don't come out right because your brain is trained to speak truth. I mean, why would you lie unless you're being manipulative? But your brain and your body don't want to lie. Your brain and your body want you to be honest. And that's why these liars end up telling on themselves. Like, for instance, Chris Watts and Scami with their Duper's Delight. They're not trying to give themselves away by smiling, but you can see how relaxed and happy they are, and that they're smiling at inappropriate times, and that they're getting the furrowed brow and getting worried at inappropriate times. Sort of the opposite, like when the expressions are the reverse of what they're saying, those are telltale signs. And we saw so much of that with Scami. But this most recent Ninja Chihuahua video is absolutely brilliant. And I think we all need to study it and share it with the professionals. If there's any professionals that will get involved and help with getting to the bottom of it. But I'm just going to be honest. This is all just my opinion, okay? Whoever it was that Kiely was with that night, those people at the very least are guilty of covering up a fatality, and that is illegal. When someone passes, it is against the law to not call the authorities. We all know this. It's against the law to not call the authorities. That's why that whack job over there in Kansas City with his 3 deceased friends, that's why he moved out, and that's why he lawyered up, and even his lawyer can't keep his freaking story straight because obviously he knew people were not alive because it was his home and they were his guests and their cars were still out front, and the stupid attorneys trying to make all kinds of excuses that don't make sense. And again, asleep. Oh, well, he was sleeping. He got tired. He went and slept. These people were such good friends of his that he was comfortable with them being in his house and not worrying about when they went home. And then he wasn't checking to see if their car was there because, he was busy. And so he didn't even notice that their cars were still there. So he didn't know that they should still be in the house. So he didn't know that they were outside frozen. And I'm thinking more and more, they didn't freeze to death. They passed away probably inside the house, and then they got put outside. And, there's been a lot of speculation about substances, of course, because none of it makes sense. And I guess when the police arrived to speak with the guy who owned or rented the property, he didn't own the house, which is weird because he's like super successful. He's like a genius scientist with what, HIV vaccination or something like that. You'd think he'd be making a little bit of money that he could buy his own house and not have to rent. I mean, renting is a pain in the butt, right? I mean, landlords are no fun. If you can avoid having a landlord, you always want to do that. So, I mean, of course, people rent for different reasons, but for the most part, it's common knowledge that you want to avoid having a landlord in your life because even the best landlords are still landlords. Anyway, back to the point. Um, the lies, the lies, the lies, the lies. So when you're trying to cover up a story like that guy and his lawyer, and I guess he came out to talk to law enforcement, like holding a glass of wine, like, and in his boxer shorts. And I'm thinking he's got to be like a scammy, like a hamburglar, like a protected person. Because why on earth would law enforcement instantaneously say no signs of foul play unless they're trying to trick him into letting his guard down? So let's hope for that, because otherwise it's just a whole lot of effery. Anyway, I want to move on because I want to stay focused on Kiely. I want to talk about Idaho 4. I want to talk about Maui. And I want to talk about the Watts case. The Watts case to me is really important right now. Do you guys know that the DA Rourke, his wife, and her friend that have that channel, it's a YouTube channel called The Survivor's Guide to True Crime. They took their video down that Paula Plunder and what was the other one? True Crime, really good channel. Anyway, those two channels, Paula Plunder and True Crime, and then another one that starts with a Z. It's like Zawalski or something like that. They all spoke about the interview that Rourke did with his wife and her co-creator for their channel, and they all, at least the two of them, the True Crime. I wish I could remember the name of that channel. I know I have it here somewhere. Let's see. And so Mist and Things talked about it too. Behind Criminal Minds. Oh, I'm so glad I saw that. Behind Criminal Minds and Paula Plunder, those were the two channels that got struck for fair use of that interview. So again, these narcissists, DA Rourke is definitely a narcissist. he thinks that he can say on a YouTube video that he's gotten thousands of emails of people begging him to investigate NK, and that he's going to ignore every single one of them and insult every single one of them. That's not the way the world works, Mr. Rourke. You're a public servant and you respond to what the people want and ask for and demand. So people are essentially asking for and wanting and demanding to reopen the case and investigate NK, because whatever involvement she had, she did not get prosecuted for. They granted her immunity, likely, in my opinion, the way Scami was granted immunity, likely, in my opinion. And it's going to backfire. There's no statute of limitations on this. So I've brought up the case of Pam Hupp and her friend Betsy Faria. That is an old case. It happened in 2011 or 12, but it's just now getting prosecuted. One of the reasons it's getting prosecuted is because there's a new DA. So I've been using that term, prosecutorial misconduct, and getting a little bit better at saying it. But that's what the DA in that case is charged with. And the charges are sticking, you guys, because she did commit prosecutorial misconduct big time. And a lot of people are going down in that Betsy Faria case where they wrongfully imprisoned her husband for 3 years, Russ Faria. And Pam Hupp set him up. And because they didn't prosecute her, she was able to then go on and unalive more people, you guys. So if that's what's happening with Chris Watts's mistress, she's not a safe person to have running around in the general population of the public. I mean, she's not going to change. So sorry to be kind of talking about so many cases at once, but this is just where my mind has been paying attention to the cases that I pay attention to and seeing twists and the turns that the cases have been making, great points that other content creators have been bringing up. And just simply the way Michael Rourke, the district attorney, met his wife is truly despicable, in humble opinion. It's just my opinion. Absolutely despicable. She was 20. She was grotesquely victimized. He was the prosecuting attorney. Her perp got 24 years. Most perps in situations like that get 0. Okay. It's like about a half of a percentage that get prosecuted and get sentenced. So the guy has problems with boundaries. He has problems keeping his professional distance, obviously, because he married this 20-year-old. He was like 35 when he was the attorney prosecuting her attacker. And they say that it was 10 years later that they started dating, but whatever. Let's just pretend that that's true. All right. So then she would have been 30 and he would have been 45. It looks like she probably got married and had kids and got divorced before they got married. I don't know about him, if it was his first marriage or not. It looks like they might have biological children together. I'm not sure. But that's always going to be how they met. So it's a slippery slope when you cross boundaries, professional boundaries like that. So what is it that he feels like that's okay for him to do? Because in general, it's common knowledge these days, you guys, you don't date people that you work with, especially as a professional. You don't meet people that you don't date people that you meet as your clients. It's just it's like setting yourself up for a disaster. Of course, it still happens a lot, but a lot of people get sued. And a lot of those relationships go bad. I mean, relationships are tough. So let's say that that couple gets a divorce someday, the DA and the woman that he represented her during her prosecution of her assaulter. If they ever get divorced, she can use that against him and probably take him to the cleaners. And it's happened. It has happened. I've seen it happen, especially in the field that I work in, psychotherapy. Um, if a therapist marries their client and the relationship ever dissolves or they get a divorce, that is not going to fare well against them in their custody battle, in their divorce decree. It's just not. Um, anyway, so I want to say that both the DA and his wife are extremely cocky. So they put up that video on her channel, and it was the only video on there other than this like 1 minute kind of introduction video that is still on there. And I'll put a link to that, I guess. I mean, I don't like to give those people attention, but because I'm talking about it, I'll go ahead and put that link to the 1 minute video. But they took down their video with all the information where he was insulting all the armchair detectives and saying how stupid everybody was that's on YouTube and how everybody needs to go to law school and everybody needs to become a prosecuting attorney. And she was like, yeah, they don't know how hard your job is. They don't know how much you care. You know what? He doesn't care. He did not look at the evidence in the Watts case. And in the video that they took down, he's saying because it was just so hard for him, because, it reminded him of his own daughter because those girls had the long blonde hair and did the cartwheels in their living room. No, they did not have long blonde hair. And no, there's no videotape or photographs of them anywhere doing cartwheels in their living room. In fact, I'm going to bet that those tiny girls didn't know how to do cartwheels at all because cartwheels are tough. And they were 4 and 3, I think, roughly, right in there, maybe 5 and 4. Cece just turned 3. And yeah, Bella was about to turn 5, I think, in a few months. So they were 3 and 4. 3 and 4-year-olds can't do cartwheels, you guys. Like, even if they go to gymnastics, like, their little bodies aren't proportioned correctly. I'm sure there's exceptions, but no, little babies like that can't do cartwheels. Just like a freaking 1-year-old can't do a cartwheel, a 2-year-old can't do a cartwheel. Anyway, he's saying that he couldn't look at the evidence because it just broke his heart too much. It's like, dude, you need to get yourself together, get your professional distance, and look at the evidence because it's your freaking job. It's your job to look at the evidence. Yeah, it sucks. It's not an easy job. And no, there's no such thing as prosecutorial PTSD. It's called secondary PTSD, and it's for anybody who's not the victim who gets traumatized by seeing about trauma. There's no such thing as prosecutorial PTSD. He made that crap up. It's called secondary PTSD. Professionals are extremely susceptible to it, and the phrase was coined for professionals so that professionals could get debriefed and get help. I actually did a workshop with the woman who started that whole concept in San Francisco I did the workshop with her in the 90s, and I think it was the early 90s that she came up with that whole concept, secondary PTSD. And really, all of us can be susceptible to that simply from watching the news and from watching our YouTube videos. Even though we want to learn, we want to have the compassion for these people, it hurts and it's traumatizing and it's triggering. So it's really important to know yourself, know your boundaries, know your triggers, and stay in your freaking lane and not go marry people and adopt people because they're injured birds and you want to help fix their broken wing. It's a very, very common theme with people who are codependent and with professionals to want to take these people into your home and nurture them and provide for them and love them. And that's selfish. That's short-sighted. You can identify those feelings, identify those desires. You can respond to them and benefit yourself and benefit the victim, and you can help them. But having clarity and having boundaries and staying in your lane. Seriously. And yeah, we're all human and we all make mistakes and we're all going to slip at times. Nobody's perfect and there's exceptions to every rule. But this DA is out of control. And so is his wife. So the other thing I want to talk about before I move off of that topic is the Survivor's Guide to True Crime, as if nobody in the true crime community has ever thought about the victims. That's kind of their premise. Like, oh, this horrible genre of true crime where everybody is just making entertainment of other people's trauma, we're here to show you the other side because we're so much better than that. I call bullcrap. Absolute bullcrap. And why they took their video down is because I'm going to guess, this is just my opinion, because the channels behind Criminal Minds and Plunder probably pushed back on YouTube, striking them, and pointed out that they didn't go beyond the terms of use. They didn't go beyond fair use. And then what the Rourkes did was they brought themselves front and center in the limelight. So again, lying liars telling themselves. So they're out here thinking, oh, I can control the streets of YouTube and we're going to like revamp this place and make it the way we think it should be, which is where everybody listens to the authorities and nobody questions anything. And, you know, question everything. Question everything. Okay. So let's move on. I just get a little too worked up. Let's see. Should we talk about the Maui case next? I'm so sorry that I can't read your chat. I'm gonna get the laptop figured out. My son, my 16-year-old, is like brilliant with that stuff, and whatever he did to it the last time he fiddled with it, fixed it. We just didn't realize that it fixed it. And my stupid notebook just fell, so I'm not using that one again. And then, so I was doing my sound check this morning thinking, well, it's not going to work. I'm just doing the sound check to see, and then I'll use my cell phone. But it did work, as you guys might know. Thank you for being there. Annie Ruler, and I think it was Bex. There were two, I think, that caught it right away. And so then I tried to get myself together for a live and just had one mishap after another, just a lot going on. Finally got it going, and then there was no sound and nothing changed on it. Nothing. So I keep looking down because I'm expecting to have my my device, my mic that is for the laptop. Right now I've got the AirPod in, so hopefully it's still working. You guys can still hear me. So yeah, the manipulation. Okay. Another case that I have to talk about that I didn't mention is the Scott Peterson case and this whole idea of the Innocence Project, like taking on his case. You guys, I have a theory about this. My theory is that the people calling themselves this Innocence Project, I think it's in Los Angeles, are kind of in the same camp as somebody like DA Michael Rourke, and they are trying to get innocence projects everywhere to look ridiculous. Like messing with Scott Peterson's case. I mean, to me, that's ludicrous. And then you know that Foxy Noxie also affiliates herself with the Innocence Project. Like, that girl's not innocent of nothing, in my humble opinion. again, watch True Crime Rocket Science. I think he's written 3 books about the Meredith Kircher case. The case is fascinating, and what's the most fascinating, in my opinion, is how much of the information never came through mainstream media, because CNN was paying for all of the attorney's fees, all of the family's expenses, and they were literally using it as a media circus to sell their ad revenue, in my opinion, allegedly, right? So it was a freaking puppet show. It was a puppet show. And information that never came through the television or the information tubes of technology was that there was a knife with Meredith Kircher's DNA on it at the home of Foxy Noxie's boyfriend, the guy she'd been sleeping with for 6 days, called him her boyfriend. I mean, I don't know what his involvement was exactly, other than getting sucked into a nightmare. And the guy, Rudy Goede, I think is how you say it, Guede, who then got sentenced to like 19 years. He was the second not white person that Foxy Noxie implicated. The first one was her boss at the bar that her and Meredith Kircher worked at. And Meredith was getting more shifts and she was getting less shifts, and she was broke and she needed rent money. Remember, this happened on November 1st and rent was due and the girl didn't have it. And she got her hours cut by her boss at the bar. And there was a lot going on. There was a lot of jealousy. There was the downstairs neighbor boy that maybe Foxy Noxie had bagged, because it sounds like she bagged half of the population in the village of Perugia, or however you say it, in my opinion. I mean, she was getting around, and the guy downstairs then started an actual relationship with Meredith Kircher. And they were also musicians. So there was this whole element of jealousy, much like in the Kiely Rodney case, perhaps. Anyway, a lot of this information never came through to America. I paid a lot of attention to the case. I lived in Seattle when it happened. I believed everything that came over the news waves. It wasn't until I got exposed to True Crime Rocket Science and his deep diving on the case that I understood what the F had happened there. So for any Innocence Project to affiliate themselves with somebody like her is like the kiss of death for people trusting the Innocence Project, because eventually the truth is going to come out and people are going to realize what a manipulative dirtbag snake she is. She's made fame and fortune off of Meredith Kircher's slaughter. Like, if you were really innocent of that, would you make fame and fortune off of that? No, you wouldn't. You would be so horrified at the whole situation, and you would try to get a life outside of that, because there's a lot of life outside of that, unless you're in it. Anyway, merely my opinion. But the manipulation, the convoluting the facts, we see this time and time again. We see this with Nicole Kessinger, in my opinion. We see this with people like Foxy Noxie. We see this with Barry Morphew, in my opinion. And his friend, do you guys remember Barry's friend, George, the guy who did like 40 or 400 tours of duty in Iraq or Iran? That guy, George, wow. And then the attorney, Iris Eaton, I think is her name. And just the way they try to convolute the whole story. Remember in the Suzanne Morphew case that the first story, the first line of bull that they tried to sell to the public was that she was out riding her bike and a car full of people from south of the border abducted her. Do you remember that? There was somebody sticking their neck out saying that they saw this vehicle full of people from south of the border and that they were scared that something like that was going to happen, like, and then it did. Guess what? There's traffic cams all over that area in Colorado because it's rural and there's a lot of money there and there's a lot of people with their second homes, just like in Tahoe. Where are the freaking traffic cams, you guys? The traffic cams will back up the truth or refute the truth. So we're not seeing any traffic cams from Kiely Rodney's case, no traffic cams in the Watts case because it won't fit the narrative that the DA decided he was going to sell to the public. So he could wrap that case up tight, protect that scumbag Skank, and protect the assets of Anadarko as they were moving through their multi-billion-dollar merger, you guys. Which brings me to the Idaho 4 case. Idaho 4, the University of Idaho was in the process of purchasing, I think it's called the University of Phoenix, some like online scam school that was like utterly failing and floundering. And then what? Scott Green purchased it for $550 million and did all kinds of creative financing, you might call it, versus illegal activity, claiming like nonprofit. I mean, a university is for profit. Even a public university is for profit. It's a business. And man, was it Casper West, I think, that just did a video about the thing with the OnlyFans. And he's showing clips of people who, like this one woman who claims she made like $1 million in one day on one photograph. Like that OnlyFans stuff is way more profitable than most of us can even wrap our minds around, allegedly. But we've heard the OnlyFans thing kicked around from jump with the Idaho 4 case. It was also brought up in the Trinity Backus case because Trinity's mother and her fake Auntie Ashley, suspect number one, they both had OnlyFans accounts. So what if Trinity ever got into any of those photographs on an OnlyFans account? That would be illegal because being underage. So we all know how sought after redheads are. We all know how sought after green-eyed women are, especially red hair and green eyes. And forgive me, trigger warning, but people want to know, does the carpet match the drapes? I mean, I know that's rude, but seriously, people want to know. Like that's always where those things go, straight to the gutter. I apologize for that, but I just had to say it. So the OnlyFans got covered up, in my opinion, with this Idaho 4 case. It keeps resurfacing because it's there. Because it's there. And I've brought it up many times. How on earth did a president of the University of Idaho make $1 billion in 4 years or less when he was worth approximately $2 million at the beginning of his tenure, and now he's worth approximately $3 billion? It depends where you look. I've looked at different sites that say 3 and say 4, so I'm going with the lower. But his net worth, the sites that I've looked at, is almost neck and neck with Oprah, you guys. Harpo. Like some sites say she's worth 4 billion, other sites say she's worth slightly under 3 billion. That's insane. He's a freaking president of a university. Where is he getting all this money? I mean, I would think running a university would take a lot of time and attention. So, what are you doing? Playing poker on the side online or at casinos? I mean, seriously, where are you getting all the money? $1 billion in 4 years? Would that be like $250 million a year? I'm pretty sure the position pays six figures. I'm not sure exactly. I know I've looked it up. It doesn't pay as much as the position does at other schools. Like even Wazoo pays a lot more because they've got all that football money. Um, Ivy League schools pay their presidents very well. University of Idaho, I want to say was somewhere around 500,000 to 800,000 annual salary. I could be off a little bit, but I'm pretty sure it's in there. So that's less than $1 million, right? Where is he getting the other 249 million a year? That's a lot of millions, you guys. That's a lot of zeros. Where's this coming from? So it seems to me that one of the answers to that question could possibly be something that I heard early in this case that people don't really talk about, that I've heard. I heard it brought up once or twice early in the case, and that's it. And I haven't really brought it up either. Is that the school was under investigation for falsifying documentation of students as part-time employees so that they could get all of that government money when everyone was getting paid an additional $600 a week to stay home back in March of 2020 when the economy went on a lockdown stay-at-home order and people were collecting their unemployment and in addition getting $600 tacked on to their weekly pay. So it was $2,400 a month additional to their monthly unemployment. That's some good money. And then it seems that the University of Idaho was under investigation for falsifying student employment. You guys follow? It's a good chunk of change. There's been a lot of financial hardships in that school. I mean, there's financial hardships in every business and in every school, no matter how successful they are or aren't. But that school was failing financially. And when Green came in 2019, they hired him because it was a financial disaster. And he was some kind of financial wizard, having, worked for these high rolling law firms. And yeah, then COVID happened, and a lot of people profited wildly with COVID, and a lot of people went broke with COVID. A lot of businesses completely evaporated off the face of the earth, and other businesses got a very strong foothold in the economy. So, um, it also ties in with the Kiely Rodni case that Lindsay Rodney Neiman was under investigation allegedly for falsifying employees for PPE loans, right? So those were the loans that you didn't have to pay back. So it was kind of just like a gift. I mean, I know some people have paid them back, but there was a lot of fraud in the PPE loans and in the unemployment. So I wonder about the university too, if there could have been some fraud with PPE loans. I mean, those were mostly for small businesses, but anyway, it's just something I just thought of. Um, okay, I'm going to jump into another case because I've got it in my notes here and I feel like it's really important to me. And I would imagine that it's really important to a lot of you. The Gabby Petito case. I think I am thinking about it because SF Investigates brought it up. And some of the content creators that have been real focused on the Kiely Rodni case have been looking at the SF Investigates tape. I want to say Ara and Squirrels on Fire. And there's probably one or two that I'm not giving credit where credit is due, so I apologize if that's the case. But SF Investigates brought up Gabby Petito's case. oddly enough, she was found in a national park, right? I want to ask you guys if you're familiar with August 17th. This was 2021, the year that she was, um, that her life ended by the boyfriend, Brian Laundrie. That's what he at least confessed to in his burn after reading letter to his mother. So, August 17th to August 23rd, Gabby Petito, it's a fact, as far as I know, that she stayed in a hotel room by the Salt Lake City airport. I believe it was a Fairfield Inn. I was going to double check that, but I had forgotten to double check it. There's so many things I try to double check and triple check. But I'm pretty sure it was a Fairfield Inn. Whatever it was, kind of like a Holiday Express Inn, but I don't think it was the Holiday Express Inn. Um, and I've seen pictures of it. And she was there for those 6 days that Brian Laundrie flew back to Florida for that nonsensical journey of helping his dad clean out a storage unit to save money. If they wouldn't have added the to save money part, it could have flown, in my opinion. But he left for 6 days, 5 days after the police incident at Delicate Arches, and just a couple of days after a couple were unalived at their campsite right outside of Moab. Is it Crystal Turner and Kylan Schulte? So they were unalived 2 days after the incident in front of the health food store that Kylan worked at. And then August 17th to the 23rd, Laundrie's out of town. Laundrie's in Florida. And Gabby's staying at the hotel by herself. And the story is that she was working on her website, right, for her van life thing. Where are we at time-wise? I think we're good. And he returned from that Florida trip on August 23rd of 2021. And then we all know the stories now that on the 27th, they had the incident at Mary Piglet's, the Tex-Mex restaurant, and then they had, it looks like a shoplifting incident at Whole Foods. And then at 5:30 that night, the Red, White, and Bethune saw their van out there 1,000 feet from where her remains were later found. And as they're driving by, somebody's shutting the back door of the van. So, yeah. My question is this. What was Gabby doing from August 17th to the 23rd in that hotel room all by herself? And I'm just going to say it because SF investigates being connected to it at all. Could she have been getting trafficked? Could that have been why Brian Laundrie left, was because he was instructed to? I don't know. It's a question. I'm not saying that that's a fact at all. It's a question that I have had at times. And SF investigates bringing up Gabby Petito's case is very fishy to me. Mr. Fisher. Okay, so let's talk about Maui and then maybe wrap up, because we've talked about everything under the sun. No, we haven't talked much about the Idaho case, really. We can get into that too, but let's talk about Maui for a second, because Brush Junkies dropped a couple of great videos. Thanks, Tracy. She does such a good job. And one of the things that is said in, I think it's the shorter video that's like 9 minutes long, and this guy does a really good job of delineating what the direct energy weaponry does and how it works. And I want to say that it was in that video. I could be incorrect, but some of the people that were escaping the flames and trying to escape by car and then had to abandon their cars and jump into the water claim that they were shot at in the water, that there was gunfire shooting people that were in the water. And it's mind-boggling. And I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with that account. I mean, the best way to find out the truth is to talk to eyewitnesses that were there. And eyewitnesses can be unreliable. At first, I thought, okay, that's not a story that I've heard, but okay, I hear it now. And then I slept on it and I thought, well, could that be the fireballs that were flying through the air? I've heard other people that were in the water early on talk about the fireballs that were like the size of tennis balls that were just flying all over the place. And so I thought, well, maybe people weren't getting shot at, but it sounded like they were getting shot at and it felt like they were getting shot at. Maybe it was fireballs. And I'm leaving the door open for those fireballs having occurred naturally, which seems like a stretch. Seems like a major stretch. But I'm just curious what you guys think. If you want to put it in the comment section, not the comment section here because I won't be able to read it. I mean, you're welcome to, but I'm unfortunately not able to read it out loud because I can't see it. We'll get it together. We will get it together. I'm not giving up. You guys, I quit my freaking job that I worked 50 hours a week so I can focus on YouTube and yoga because I've just got too much on my plate and I'd been wanting to quit for a long time. So I finally did it. I wasn't sure I was going to share that with you guys, but yay. Yay for me. I'm free. So who needs a paycheck anyway, right? Seriously. I mean, money's not what it's about. It's just not. It's like the more you have, the more you spend, and you got to do what you got to do. So it wasn't financially the soundest decision to make, but in real life, it was by far the best decision to make. And I'd been trying to make that decision for a long time, but just unable to commit to not having that financial security. So here I am committing, at least for the moment, to not having the financial security. I am going to try to monetize this channel. I am. I've never given up on that. I'm going to seriously ask my dear friend Shan if I can drive to her in Pennsylvania because I'm just one state over and she can go over it with me. My dear friend Kiely from Watsy Obsession, she has said that she would help too, but that's a much further drive. So, I don't know that FaceTime I'd be able to figure it out or my IT crew here would be able to figure it out. But anyway, thank goodness for friends that want to help, that know the ropes. Just got to do it. And I haven't had time and I haven't cared. So there's that. And then the whole thing with my yoga instruction, that is potentially a source of income, and not something that I've been looking at as a source of income. But in order for me to actually be successful with it, I think I just need to have a lot less commitments because it's a really serious thing. And my goal with the yoga instruction is simply to be healthier and to know yoga better. So with too many things, stretching myself too thin in too many different directions, I felt like I was not going to succeed with my yoga certification. So I'm just reprioritizing and I'm really happy to share it with you. So let's see. I just wanted to mention something that I wrote in my notes here, which is the narcissists, like in Scott Peterson's case, in the Meredith Kircher case, in all of these cases. To me, any criminal is a narcissist. That not only do they convolute and take and manipulate, they take advantage of people. That's such a basic narcissistic quality, to take advantage of people. And they don't care how many people they hurt in their efforts to get what they want. They don't care how many people they hurt. Like, I mean, you could apply that to Maui. If indeed this Maui massacre was a massacre, like who on earth can wrap their mind around that? Like that kind of destruction, that kind of terror for families and kids and old people and animals. Who on earth would do that on purpose? But we know that people have done things like that on purpose plenty of times historically. Genocide. And history repeats itself. So, in my opinion, it's entirely possible. Okay, sorry about the phone call. Am I back on? Um, and in tying my yoga in with all of this true crime, because that was another thing I didn't think I would do, that maybe I am. We'll see. I just go with the flow. And to me, yoga is all about peace and justice and balance. And you think about the justice scales, and there's that balance. And that's what I feel like my goal is to try to create by having a YouTube channel, is to get information out into the public arena to balance out the scales so that people aren't just hearing that mainstream media account that comes directly from the authority that may or may not be um, honest and well intended, that there could be ill intention, there could be cover up. We've seen it time and time again. And of course, nobody's going to admit to a cover up, and nobody's going to admit to an intentional corrupt cover up. They might admit to an accidental buffoonery cover up, and that's bad enough. But either way, a cover up's a cover up, and incompetence is incompetence. Whether it's intentional or unintentional, it's still prosecutable because it's your job. It's your job. It's your job to know the right way to do things. It's your job to serve and protect. If you fail to do your job, you need to be held accountable, especially if you're in a position of life-saving authority like first responders and doctors. You have to be held accountable. Nurses too. Accountability is across the boards for every human alive, but especially in these positions that people rely on these professionals. And unfortunately, there are professionals in those jobs who maybe shouldn't be, or definitely shouldn't be. And maybe they're taking advantage of their power, and maybe they're actually causing harm rather than doing no harm. The Hippocratic Oath that doctors take, law enforcement takes a very, very similar Hippocratic Oath to first do no harm. So, okay, I think that's pretty much everything. Idaho 4. WTF. The case is like unreal. Unreal. Like, it just blows my mind. Just last night, I think I saw another video that somebody put out about how a crazy PhD student did this. Like, I think that was like the title of the video, like how a crazy PhD student did this. It's like, are you serious? Like, we don't know that he did do this. We don't know that he had any part whatsoever. We do know that the Pullman PD has been not forthright with what happened in the aftermath of his interview with Chief Jenkins for that fellowship position. Coming up on 2 years ago, It'll be 2 years, April 12th, 2022 was when it happened. So he interviewed, he was one of 4 candidates, just like Scott Coomer was one of 4 candidates for his job, and just like Chief French Fry was one of 4 candidates for his job. And then you got to remember that Chief Jenkins resigned from Pullman PD, and then was hired as the interim chief at Wazoo when their entire command staff was about to be reprimanded for mishandling essays from within their department. Jenkins had that same thing going on in his department under his watch. So I think I'll leave it there. How long is this video? Like, I don't know why the, oh, it's because of the lighting. Feels like I've been going on for a very long time, but I don't even know what time I started because I had so many problems getting started. Wow, 70 minutes, an hour and 10 minutes. All right, that's not too long. Anyway, it seems longer because I don't like using my cell phone to make the videos. I really like using my laptop. So hopefully I'll have my kid tune up my laptop sound situation again, since he did fix it the last time. I don't know what happened. Those hackers, man, they're after me. So I didn't do my normal rundown of please share the video if you like it. Make sure you're still subscribed if you are subscribed. If you're not subscribed, please consider doing so. It does wonders for the algorithm. And turn on your notification bell to ring when I do a live. You guys, even my best friends and mods are sharing with me that they never get notified when I'm doing a live. So I've had many loyal subs tell me that they have to resub every single time they watch a video of mine. I mean, sure, I can take it as a compliment, but I don't want to do that because it could just be glitches, right? It's just glitches. It doesn't mean nothing. But I'm going to show my sign again. This one, love will save the day, because this is the truth every single day of existence, in my humble opinion. And I don't know what happened to my hedgehog, you guys. Can you see my mouse right here? No, you can't, because the stupid camera. I had it all set up so perfectly with the laptop, but then things got smaller with the cell phone. So I got Mr. Mouse, I got Gabby Pumpkin, I got all kinds of cool stuff down here I don't think you can see, and cool stuff up there that you can't see. But I'm going to get my laptop going so that I can share it all with you, and I don't have to like redo my set all the time, so I can have all this cool stuff in it without it being too much trouble, because you know all my bigger kids keep moving out and leaving open rooms that I can use for studio space, so I'll take it. And I'm oopsie bump going to show the creepy thumb once again. Please hit that like button. Thank you so much for joining me. I really hope to be getting back into a routine where I can do lives like every day, and incorporate that into my routine of yoga and then alive. And I don't know, mixing the two. I think doing them separate, but we'll see. Maybe if I do yoga on YouTube, I'll consider having a second channel, because, I don't want to muddy the water. I love you guys. Sending you light, sending you love. Have a fabulous afternoon. Please take really good care of yourself. Drink your water, eat your vegetables. Be persistent, be consistent, and try to not make changes. That's kind of a good rule of thumb. I know it might sound counterintuitive, but not making changes, like even in your weight and in your relationships and in your living situation and in your work situation, try not to make changes. Try to keep everything stable, consistent, and predictable. And then when you do need to make a change, or change happens, whether you're trying or not, everything is still consistent and stable and predictable, and it's not as stressful. If you have too many changes happening all at once, it's really hard to keep your balance, to keep an even keel. So, very important not to change your work status, your relationship status, and your living situation status, not to change those three things, even in the same 12 months or 24 months, if you can avoid it. There's times when you can't avoid it, like the people that were burned out in the Maui fires. You know, their jobs changed, their um, home situation changes, and especially if they lost loved ones, their relationship status has changed. But when you're dealing with that much turbulence, relationships can have a tendency to fall apart. So people either get closer during a crisis or go different directions. And that brings me to one of my favorite things or theories about crises, because that's what we're talking about here, right? It's crises. And you guys know I used to be a crisis and commitment specialist. And the Asian symbols for crisis, there's two. The first one means danger, and the second one means opportunity. So in Chinese and Japanese, the way you say crisis is you say dangerous opportunity. So you're having a crisis in your life, you're having a dangerous opportunity in your life. So there's an opportunity for something good to happen, you know, like that old saying that things have to get worse a lot of times before they can get better. Um, that's the danger of the opportunity. But in recognizing that good can come from a crisis, that empower you to direct the outcome, steer the narrative, right? So that something good does come of it. So it's not just a freaking disaster. So on that, you guys, again, light and love, take really good care of yourself, get your rest, your relaxation, your nourishment, your hydration, and see you very soon, hopefully tomorrow. And I've got to turn that off. Take care. Thanks again.